Munayo Rajan Nibrita Vihi Siddhataha Naigunya Stha Navante Sma Gunanukantane Hare Prayena Munayo Rajan Nivritta Visedataha Naigunya Saramante Sma Gunanukatane Hare Prayena Munayo Rajan Nivritta Visedataha Naigunya Staramante Sma Gunanukatane Hare Somebody?
Prayena Munayo Rajan Nivritta Vidisejata Narigunya Staramante Sma Gunanukatane Hare
Prayena Munayo Rajan
Pranayena Manorajan
Nivritta Vidisetaha
Naigunya
Naigunya Staramante Sma Gunanukatane Hare
Prayena Munayo Rajan Nivritta Vidisevata Nirgunya Staramante Sma Gunanukatane Hare
Prayena Munayo Rajan Nivritta Vidhi Sedhataha Nairgunyasta Ramante Sma
Gunanukatane Hare
Prayeena Munayo Rajan
Nivritta Vidishedata Naigunya Staramante Sma Gunanukatane Hare Prayena mainly Gunaya all sages Rajan O King Nivritta above Vidhi
regulative principles
Sedata
from restrictions Naigunya Sta transcendentally situated Ramante take pleasure in Sma distinctly
Gunu Anukatane
describing the glories
Hare
of the Lord. Translation of the verse. O King Parīkṣit, mainly the topmost transcendentalists who above the regulative principles and restrictions take pleasure in describing the glories of the Lord. The topmost transcendentalist is a liberated soul and is therefore not within the preview of the regulative principles. A neophyte who intended to be promoted to the spiritual plane is guided by the spiritual master under regulative principles. He may be compared to a patient who is treated by various restrictions under medical jurisdiction. Generally, liberated souls who take pleasure in describing the transcendental activities, as mentioned above, since Narayan, Hari, the Personality of Godhead, is beyond the material creation, his form and attributes are not material. The topmost transcendentalists of the liberated souls realize him by advanced experience of transcendental knowledge, and therefore they take pleasure in the discussion of the transcendental qualities of the Lord's pastimes. In the Bhagavad Gita 4.9, the Personality of Godhead declares that his appearance and activities are all divyam, or transcendental. The common man, who is under the spell of material energy, takes it for granted that the Lord is like one of us, and therefore he refuses to accept the transcendental nature of the Lord's form, name, etc. The topmost transcendentalist is not interested in anything material, and his taking interest in the matter of the Lord's activities is definite proof that the Lord is not like one of us in the material world. In the Vedic literature also it is confirmed that the Supreme Lord is one, but that he is engaged in the transcendental pastimes in the company of his unalloyed devotees, and that simultaneously he is present as the Supersoul, an expansion of Baladeva, in the heart of all living entities. Therefore, the highest perfection of transcendental realization is to take pleasure in hearing and describing the transcendental qualities of the Lord, and not in merging into his impersonal Brahman existence, for which the impersonalist monist aspires. Real transcendental pleasure is realized in the glorification of the transcendental Lord, and not in the feeling of being situated in his impersonal feature. But there are also others who are not the topmost transcendentalists, but are in a lower status, and who do not take pleasure in describing the transcendental activities of the Lord. Rather, they discuss such activities of the Lord formally with the aim of merging into his existence. Kayena munayo rajan nivritta vidi sedataha naigunyastara sma kunayurantahe harehe. O King Parīkṣit, mainly the topmost transcendentalists who above the regulative principles and restrictions take pleasure in describing the glories of the Lord. So we're hearing from the Shrimad-Bhagavatam. The first step is Lord realization. And here, Shukadeva Goswami is directing, talking to Parīkṣit. This story of this pastime of Shukadeva Goswami meeting King Parīkṣit was very nicely described in the first canto. Parīkṣit was a king, was the last descendant of the Pandava dynasty. And so he became king. And in those times, kings were just not kings like nowadays, or elected leaders. They were prepared very nicely from the beginning of their life. From the beginning of their life. That means in Vedic education, not everyone was educated in the same way. But the brahmanas or the teachers were very expert in detecting the guna karma of the disciples, of the students. And according to their guna karma, they would be prepared for the future life. So guna karma. Guna karma vibhavasha. So this is explained very nicely in Bhagavad by Krishna. That it's not sufficient to be born in a certain family to acquire the family's quality automatically. But it's actually by guna karma. Just like Prabhupada gives the example, maybe in the high court, judge's family, a child is born and grows up. It's not automatic that he also becomes a high court judge. But first he has to study, has to be pass so many exams, has to get the approval of the authorities, like this. And then he becomes qualified, provided he has the necessary qualities. So originally this was more easy. Today we're living in Kali Yuga. As Bhagavata Purana says, in this Kali Yuga we're all born as Shudras. Before the distinctions were very clearly done. Like I remember, also Parīkṣit, the same person. It's mentioned that he started traveling in his kingdom. And he was traveling, in this regard, Prabhupada mentioned that he was not just sitting in his palace and enjoying everything, but he actually felt his responsibility of looking after his kingdom. In one sense, he was traveling around seeing that everyone was actually occupying according to his guna karma. So guna karma, that means the different varnas, starting with the brahmanas. That's a nice example given. It's like a pyramid. The top of the pyramid has very little volume. How do you say volume?
Yes.
Volume. And if you go down further, then the volume increases. And there's a wide base, there's much more volume there. In the same way, there's only not so many brahmanas, very few brahmanas actually. No, when we speak of brahmanas, we mean brahmanas. Real brahmanas. Not just, I'm a brahman, so you have to respect me like that. No. So, the brahmanas, the qualities I mentioned about Gita, Samodama, Tava, Socha, Shantidavana, Nivacha, Brahma Karma, Svabhavachan, Guna Karma, Svabhavachan. It says that the brahmanas would work with these qualities, these qualities, Shamo. They would not be, they were completely controlled. Samodama. Dhamma means that we're able to control their senses properly. That's why Prabhupada used to say, that's where the term Swami or Goswami comes from. Goswami, Go refers to the senses. And Goswami means a person who is able to control his senses. So Dhamma, so purity. It's not just a question of washing your hands. When we speak about purity, concerning the brahmanas, they were pure at heart, properly educated, properly guided from the beginning of their lives. Samudama, Tapa, Sutra, austere, they were very austere. Prabhupada gave us this principle of simple life and high thinking. There's a very nice example. Prabhupada quoted many texts of Chanakya Pandit. Chanakya Pandit was the first minister, the most important minister in the government of, what is the name of the
Chandragupta Maurya.
Chandragupta. I was traveling in South India once with devotees, and we heard a school. The children were chanting mantras. It was very impressive. And then we were informed that they were chanting the shlokas from Chanakya Pandit. Anyway, so Chanakya. So Chanakya was given an example. Baba used to say that Chanakya was actually not a pure devotee, but he was a very reasonable, very pure Brahmin. Anyway, so he was living in a small hut and just close to the palace for the king. You know? And it says that when the king needed some what is that?
Advice.
Yeah, advice. No? Needed some good advice. The king would come on foot. Normally he was carried in a palanquin and highly respected and all that, but he came on foot, very humble. And made his obeisances in front of his minister, like that. And the minister would give him advice. When I remember Prabhupada said once that he would not argue. He would just say things as they are, based on Guru, Sadhu, Shastra, and that was sufficient. And only once. And if the king didn't accept it once, so what had to be done? And under the guidance of this Chanakya Pandit, Srila Prabhupada mentioned that the king was able to get the Greeks. The Greek had, like I said, conquered part of that place. So he was able, he became very strong, and the advice of his minister, Chanakya Pandit, was able to kick them out. And actually there's a book published by Sanatya, by Krishna, our compiler. He also compiled Sasvarupa. No, he published this Chanakya Pandit slokas. Very nice. Always referring to Srila Prabhupada, how Prabhupada used these slokas like that. Anyway, so Parīkṣit Maharaj was an ideal king. It's mentioned that he went out on tours. He was always accompanied by the best, highest counselors. So this was something very important. The kings had these counselors, the brahmanas, and we give them advice in case of doubt or problems that were. And at the guidance of the brahmanas, they would do things very nicely. So the same way he was traveling, he came to a place where Shudra, dressed as a king, was beating a cow and a woman. And this was something very, very, I say, very uncommon at those times. So Parīkṣit Maharaj immediately was ready to chastise this Shudra. This. There was no. This guy had not. This man had no lawyer and all these kind of things. And the kings were also trained very nicely. They were very expert psychologists also. They can see people, look at people, and know what they're at. Like that. Anyway, so and those who have read the Bhagavatam know that at that time of danger. Kali, actually it was Kali, the personality of this age of Kali Yuga. He really surrendered. He knew that he was in danger to be killed. He fell at the feet of the king, asking for forgiveness. And this was also one of the, Prabhupada used to say the kings were also merciful. When they saw profound repentance, they were immediately ready to forgive, and they would also, kings were also, because they had so much opulence, they were also, one of their duties were to give charity, like that. Anyway, so he fell at the feet and was forgiven, and then he asked, so now I'm dependent on you, Maharaj, to give me a place where I can also be. And he gave him a place where there was a gold. Anyway, so this seems to be a place. When there's gold, there is a tendency to become contaminated. Anyway, so the point is that Parīkṣit Maharaj was cursed. This is another story. So he was training himself to kill, because the Kshatriyas were supposed to kill. Not just like that, when there was a war or something, the kings would be in the first line. They were not hiding something. I mentioned it the other day. In America they have this Air Force One. You know? This is an airplane for the president. So when there's danger, the president is supposed to disappear in that airplane, and direct things from far away. But actually, in Vedic culture, the kings were always on the front line, and in this way inspiring everybody else. Anyway, so he was in the forest training himself to kill, but they were allowed to kill animals to get this experience of killing. And at one point he was very exhausted, and he was looking for water. He couldn't find any water, so he saw a hut. Obviously a hut, a very special hut, where there was an asket. A person practicing tapas, or a sage, living there. So he went to the hut, and he saw the sage, but the sage was profoundly meditating. He was completely, didn't practically perceive what was going around him. And Bhakti Parīkṣit became, he was, he was frustrated. So he, why this person didn't he give him the proper respect and giving him some water, because he was actually the supreme king. Anyway, so he kind of became angry, and he found this dead snake laying there on the floor, and he put it around his neck. Big offense. So then he left. And Shringi, the son of this sage, kind of got to know what had happened. He went to the river, took his Brahman thread out, took the water, touched the water, and cursed the king. We were speaking about that pastime the other day, and Prabhupada actually said in this regard, at that time the Brahmanas are very powerful. When they would curse somebody, this curse you couldn't avoid it. In the same way, when they gave benedictions, also the benediction complied, manifested. Anyway, so the Shringi cursed the king. And Parīkṣit Maharaj, when he heard about that curse, instead of doing all kind of things, insurance, health insurance, whatever. He actually accepted it as a benediction. Why was it a benediction? Because actually nobody of us knows when we have to give up this body. And actually we should be nicely prepared. Shastra say that any minute we can be kicked out of this material body. And actually death, the moment of death, is the most important test in our life. Prüfung, how is that? Exam.
Exam.
Yeah, exam. The most important exam. Because at the point of death, everything I have done and all this summarized at that time. And we get exactly the result that we deserve. It is actually due to the presence of Krishna within the heart, Paramaya. Krishna says about Gita, I reside in the hearts of all the living entities. And from me comes remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. Upadashta Anuvant. He's there as a witness and sanctioner. How is it? And sanctioner. He's sanctioned. Anyway, so Parīkṣit Maharaj was cursed, and he took it as a benediction, because in this way he thought, now I can actually prepare myself properly for the time of death. So immediately left everything. Prabhupada used to say that the former saintly kings, they were very different politicians than nowadays. In the sense that when it was necessary, they were able to renounce everything within a moment. Or we have a little money, or we have anything, we have attached. And it's very difficult to give up what we have. But Parīkṣit was one of these great kings, Raja Rishis, saintly kings. So he saw it as a benediction. Now I can prepare myself properly for this most important moment. Immediately he left his palace, he left everything. He left his family, his beautiful wife, all his opulence and all that, his position, his prestige and all that. And he went to the shore of the Yamuna. Sometimes it says Ganga, or sometimes Yamuna. Papa used to say that. Actually, it's the same because Yamuna also flows, merges into the Ganga at one point. Anyway, so he went there. And when this was known, that the king had left, this event was known all over. It says that even from the heavenly planets, an important person would come to be a witness of this great event. That Parīkṣit was preparing himself for death. So many sages came. And he also asked them, but he didn't get the proper not an answer that satisfied him actually. And then after a while they saw there was a person coming from, they saw it from far away. And when they saw him, they immediately, because they were very nicely educated, they could see that he was a very special personality. He had all these symptoms of a great personality. And one of the symptoms also is that his hands went down to the knees, and he had different other symptoms. Anyway, so when the sages and the great personalities, they saw him approach, they all got up, with folded hands, to receive him properly. In other words, when the great personality comes, we should not sit there comfortably, but actually we should get up and pay the proper respect and pay obeisance. And actually for our own purification. All this relationship with saintly persons is actually very auspicious if we take advantage. Anyway, so this was Shukadeva Goswami who was coming. Shukadeva Swami had traveled. Actually, it says about he had traveled all over the world. I don't understand probably what it means, but it says he traveled all over the world in search of somebody to give the Bhagavatam, to recite the Shrimad-Bhagavatam that he had received from his father. And he had received the Bhagavatam under very special circumstances. He had received the Bhagavatam within the womb of his mother. It says that the other day we read from the Nectar Devotion. We heard everywhere else and read also in the morning from the Nectar Devotion. Anyway, so he came close, and they received him nicely, and then after glorifying him, there's prayers there. When Shukadeva Swami heard the question, he started praising the question. It's not so easy to ask good questions. And it's also not so easy to give good answers.
Yeah.
That's why we study the Shrimad-Bhagavatam. That's why we read Bhagavad Gita. Prabhupada used to say that Bhagavad Gita is our representative, Arjuna is our representative, asking all our questions. And he is very expert in asking questions. That's why I say it's not so easy to ask good questions. What to say, what to speak of giving good answers. When these great personalities answer questions, they don't start saying, "Oh, I think maybe it can be, it can also not be like that." That's why we were so eager to hear Srila Prabhupada at this time. Every word that Prabhupada had was some significant, was very powerful. And even when he did not speak, he was also very special. So there's a video, you can see Prabhupada just sitting there. It's a black and white video, and Prabhupada just sitting there, and looking, and you can look at it and look more and look. It's so impressive. So Prabhupada was such a special person. No, so and then Parīkṣit Maharaj started asking questions. And the first question was that, what is the duty of a person who's about to die? What should he hear? What should he glorify? And what should he worship? This we always have to say there's more, but I don't remember. But these were the three important questions. And then that is the end of the first canto. Then the second canto starts with the answers of Parīkṣit. And he says, he goes directly to the point. He says, no, the person who's about to die, he should hear, glorify, and worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so Parīkṣit Maharaj and Shukadeva Swami, they were speaking for, he was supposed to die within 7 days. So they were speaking for 7 days and 7 nights. It says that when they started hearing and reciting the Shrimad-Bhagavatam, they forgot about eating, sleeping, if it was day or night, because these subjects were so powerful. And in the end, he was supposed to be bitten by a poisonous snake. And when the moment came after 7 days, actually that's one thing I just recently read in the Bhagavata Purana. When before he gave up his body, his mother came, and he asked him, "What did Shukadeva Swami say?" She was very eager to hear. And somehow he related some of this. This is actually part of the Bhagavatam. Anyway, so they knew that the serpent was supposed to kill Parīkṣit Maharaj, so they guarded it. There's a nice picture, in the Bhagavatam that deals with this pastime. It's actually on the cover of the Bhagavatam. And so he was surrounded. They were trying to protect him. And then one person gave him he needed some water, and he gave him the water. And they didn't notice that within the water there was a very, 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 very inconceivable small serpent. And that serpent grew. And then you can see the serpent is so furious. Furious? Yeah. So furious that fire comes out of his mouth. And then he bites it. Anyway, so this is very special. We can learn so much from the Shrimad-Bhagavatam. Actually the most important thing in life is ask good questions and find somebody who answers these questions. Atato Brahma Jigyasa. Atato Brahma Jigyasa. It's a verse, powerful quote I love from the Vedanta Sutra. It says, Atato Brahma Jigyasa, now means after so many lives, now that we have achieved the human form of life, we should ask questions about the Brahman, Atato Brahma Jigyasa. And not waste so much time in asking all kinds of, well, I don't want to offend anybody, but useless questions. The world is full of questions and answers. But there's actually very, rarely you find somebody who's actually giving good answers. Who gives answers that actually can solve your problems, your existential problems. Normally questions and answers are related to this body, mind, sense gratification, all that. Just like the world is full, it's Berlin. There's so many questions and answers. But hardly anybody comes to the temple, the Hare Krishna temple, to hear the questions and answers of these great personalities. And that's actually the most important thing. Just like Krishna said in the Bhagavad Gita, if you want to know the truth, surrender to his Vachanas, ask him questions and submissively, and serve. That means not just hearing and this and then go out. No, actually serving, seva. No, seva is very important. Just like I mentioned yesterday, these 5 principles, most important principles that Rupa Goswami mentioned, and now see 64 principles. Now, there's also Srimutita Shadaya Seva, to worship the deities. Worship deities with faith, it says faithful, and with service. Not just sit there and, well, this is also important, and have darshan of the deities, but actually they should be followed by some service. I mentioned that normally, at least in India, when you go to the temples, important temples, they will come in not just to see the deity, but actually they bring offerings. They put money there, there's a certain box they have there. They have big containers also, where they put all the boga and all the fruits and vegetables and the grains and all that. Anyway, so this is seva. So we should do something. I heard yesterday when you were speaking at the end of the program, you were inviting devotees to do seva, isn't it? Huh?
Yeah.
What did you say exactly?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you, I thanked those who did some service, and I said, if you want to join, you're most welcome, and it's a very blissful activity because it's a service for Krishna.
There's a practical application of all this philosophy, that we actually surrender, that we do something, even though it might be difficult. Of course, in the beginning, we might tend to do things which we like. But then, as we advance in Krishna consciousness, we're supposed to accept things that we might not like so much. That is not exactly our nature. Just like Prabhupada received this instruction from Bhaktisiddhanta to go to the West. To go to the West and preach in English. Actually, at the time of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, England was the most powerful state on the planet. They had so many colonies and everything. But then when Prabhupada was ready to go to the West, he noticed that actually America had become more important. And he noticed that the whole world was copying America. Just like jeans. The whole world dressed in jeans. And these are actually the pants of the, how you say, these people who work cutting trees. How you say? Holzfäller. This is a work trouser. This is not something forename. How you say? Elegant. Because they are becoming, because influenced by the mode of ignorance, Shudras, they very attracted to all these kind of things and that mode. Anyway, so Srila Prabhupada got this instruction to go to the West, and this by itself, that Prabhupada actually came to the West, is very, very special. Actually, he went to New York. This was actually, I think it's not anymore, but it was the central of Kali Yuga. How you say this? This was Kali Yuga, full Kali Yuga. And Prabhupada went there, and he went there from the most sacred place on the planet, not only the planet and the universe. Why is this? Because it is Janmastham. It is a place where Krishna appears. Where Krishna appears once a day on Brahma. Anyway, so Srila Prabhupada went there with desire to fulfill the instruction of the spiritual master. This was actually his only motive. And Prabhupada mentioned that in India at that time, those who are dedicated to the spiritual life, or sannyasis and all that, they would say, don't cross this ocean. Don't go to these degraded places, these degraded countries of the Mechas and Yavanas. And it was not seen very well that you would take a big ship and travel to the Mecha and India. Anyway, so Prabhupada did that following instruction of the spiritual master, giving us the example. of the importance of this instruction of the spiritual master. Actually, he started molding his whole life around this instruction. And that's why he was successful. Because this is the way with how you get spiritual strength. You get everything you need to fulfill the instruction of the spiritual master. The spiritual master tells you what to do, and if you surrender, everything is given to you. In conceivable way, everything is given to you. Just like in the Bhagavad-Gita, there's a verse, I don't remember the whole verse now. What was that? Where Krishna says, but completely, how you say, surrender. I carry what he needs. What is that? It's Bahamya. So there's a famous story, well, not so famous, but Prabhupada used to tell the story. Arjuna-charya. Arjuna-charya was also an acharya he used to write comments on the Bhagavad Gita. Anyway, so when he came to that verse, where Krishna says, I carry what they lack, that he himself does it. Krishna himself, he started, speculating. He started to think, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he doesn't have to do every detail himself. He has so many servants. So he couldn't accept that exactly. And then he changed the word Bahami for Karomi. That means I make the arrangement so it's carried. So he's provided. And then he scrapped it. He changed it in his Bhagavad Gita. And then he went out on how you say better. What's that?
Take a bus?
No. Asking for charity. Not asking for charity. Because the Brahmanas, Brahmanas are permitted to do that. Because when you give it something to the Brahmana, the understanding is that he is using it properly, in the service, as an offering to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's why he's called Brahmana, because he knows the Brahman. He knows the Supreme. Anyway, so he went out to that, and at that time, 2 children appeared, 2 little boys appeared in the house, with big, how you say, loads, like a how you say, danda, like that, and 2 big, how you say, last, what is that? Anyway, it's understandable. Anyway, so they appeared, and his wife was surprised. What are you doing? Where are you coming from? And they told him, your husband forced us to bring this along. and she was more surprised. And then, my husband is a very nice person. He doesn't force anybody to do anything heavy. And then one of the boys said, he actually chastised us. And he showed him something that remained there from the chastising, from the punishing. And she was surprised. And he said, wait here. Let's wait for my husband and speak to him. I want to know exactly what happened. And then he came back. And Prabhupada mentioned something very particular. He says that he couldn't believe that his wife was already eating. Because the wives in Vedic culture are supposed to serve their husband very nicely, with devotion, with love, cook for them, give them to eat, and then they serve him nicely, and then they eat. So when he saw that his wife was there eating already, he couldn't figure out what was going on. And he said, yes, she said, yes, you beat little children on the street, how is that possible? And then he asked, what children? I bet on the street. And he said, they're still here, I show them to you. But they were not there anymore, they become unmanifested. And then he asked, describe these children to me, these boys to me. And then she said, one was darkish. He was dressed in a yellow or golden dhoti, and he had a flute in his neck. He said, I said, here, no?
Belt.
Yeah, and he had a very nice feather also in his hair. And the other one was white, and he was dressed in a blue dhoti. And then Arjuna Acharya realized that actually Krishna and Balaram had come to his home. And when she told him that one who also had a wound there, he remembered, oh, I crossed something in the Bhagavad Gita. And because Bhagavad Gita is not different from Krishna, this was actually what had happened. And then anyway, so he realized that Krishna had come to convince him that he actually does it. That Krishna has taken very nice care of his devotees. And the same thing also we see in Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada came without anything practically. He had only 40 rupees when he came. At that time it was $7. It says, beloved. Anyway, so the dollar is devalued much more. And I heard something very, very incredible. He said, I heard that Prabhupada, when he first went back to India, he took the 40 rupees with him. Anyway, so Srila Prabhupada gave me the example how to execute devotional service. How to do it properly, everything. That's why he worships Srila Prabhupada as our founder Acharya, somebody who teaches by example. So we have this very nice example. When I travel around in many places, the devotees, before reading the Shrimad-Bhagavatam, they read either the Lilavita from Srila Prabhupada or the Transcendental Diary of how he sounded. And it's very nice to hear Prabhupada's activities. We in Köln we also started that some time back, reading from the Transcendental Diary. Hari Sauri was always with Srila Prabhupada. He was his servant, and so he was always with him, speaking to him, serving him, giving him massage, so many things. And at night he would sit down and write what he had remembered from the day. And we're so fortunate. Actually it's like, it's a Vapu actually. We can have the association of Vapu with Srila Prabhupada, hearing all these details, and the comments that Prabhupada made. And when Prabhupada commended something, it had substance, and every moment Prabhupada would teach us. No matter what he did, it was always an example for us to follow. Of course, we're not so important, but we should learn how Prabhupada also dealt with devotees, how he dealt with outsiders, and so many things. So Srila Prabhupada was our founder Acharya, or is our founder Acharya, and his instructions are still there. Prabhupada used to say that his purports of his books were his personal ecstasies. So if we read the books of Srila Prabhupada regularly, we have direct association with Srila Prabhupada. Isn't it?
Yeah.
You want to say something more about that? He was a Sankirtan devotee for so many years. He ended up as an organizer of Sankirtan in Germany, wasn't it? Yeah?
Yeah.
You still?
Yeah.
Yeah, still. Yeah, I didn't know. I thought when you got married, you kind of.
I mean, the devotees are well organized. I don't have to do much.
Yeah, but this was because of your guidance.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mangalananda did a lot too.
Yeah, he disappeared. But you didn't disappear yet. Yes, he was a very nice devotee also. I knew him for long time. I was there when he joined. At that time I was in Schloss Reddershof and I was in charge of the Bhakti program. And they would send me all the Bhaktas to their place. And he was one of them also. Hare Krishna. Anyway, so I don't know how long this class is. Huh?
Yeah, it's. I mean, it's always according to the speaker and the time schedule of the speaker. And yes, it's about 1 hour.
Well, you didn't take breakfast yet, no? Wait.
No, Jagannath is having now.
Huh?
Jagannath is having now.
Oh, okay.
Actually, it's just offering now, so I think after the offering we can stop.
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, so any questions maybe? Any comments? Yeah.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for the wonderful lecture. Maharaj, you spoke yesterday and today also about deity worship. So I have this question, like how we can move or shift our consciousness from duty-bound deity worship to a loving and affectionate deity worship.
You just continue. All these services are very powerful. If we concentrate on them, even without having developed faith, no faith yes, but taste, we should just continue. We should maintain ourselves as pure as possible, especially when we deal with deities. Originally only Brahmanas were allowed to worship deities. But Prabhupada introduced us to Sri Shrimad and Jagannath, where there are some certain permissions, some permission. Of course, I remember from the reading of the biography of Bhaktivedanta Saraswati, there was something that caught my attention, because they were criticizing Bhaktivedanta Saraswati for engaging his disciples who had not been born in Brahmin families in the deity worship. This is something, some kind of revolutionary in our traditions, Vaishnava Sampradayas. Because our mission is to be very merciful, help everyone as much as possible to advance in spiritual life, and by the special mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Anyway, so he was criticized, and after a while, when young persons would join from those families, from Brahmanas, they also became attracted. In the beginning it was not exactly like that, but more and more intelligent, educated person would all come. And then he engaged them in deity worship. Just to keep off the pressure, right? Brahmana should, if you worship the deities, you should give a lot of attention to your sadhana. Shave your beard off. Sorry. Prabhupada used to say something heavy. I'm sorry if it's too heavy. Prabhupada said everything that comes out of the body is impure. And I've been staying with him. What was his name?
Raghav.
Yeah, I was staying with him, and they gave me a room full of pictures of deities in different parts of the world. And there's also a picture of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Is it? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Very nicely shaved, with kantis. And very, very, you can see in his expression, his face, experiencing transcendental ecstasy. These things are not so easy to achieve. That's why persons like Rupa Goswami, they gave us a whole collection of 64 principles of devotional service. And we are supposed to hear about these qualities. That's why Prabhupada wanted that book to be read every day. That's why it's part of our morning program. Everywhere we read the nectar of devotion. So you should familiarize yourself with these principles. Very nice. All these principles have actually deep meaning. We should try to do as much as we can. Of course, when you start, there's still a lot of attachment for all kinds of anarthas, unnecessary things. But if you are actually serious and chanting nicely, following the four regulative principles, then you get the necessary strength. That's why Prabhupada used to say, purity is the force. Our strength is not here. No? No? But actually our strength is purity. You can see, Prabhupada was so pure. That's why he had a tremendous success all over the world. People were surrendered to Srila Prabhupada. In the beginning of our movement here in Germany, so many far out things happened. I remember I had just opened a temple in München, and then Hans Luther, he was our leader. There was no at that time the GBC started functioning, but he was our leader, and he came with a group of devotees, and we're distributing Ishopanishads. It was the first book in German. Anyway, so we went out in Harinam, and around the Harinam, the devotees were distributing books like that. And there was a hippie. You know hippies, huh? Yes. Yeah, he was a hippie. He was following us. And he had bongos, no? He was really into it, no? Yes. And he followed us all the way back to the temple. And when we arrived at the temple, Hans Luther shaved him up. And he stayed, and he became one of our best Sankirtan devotees in Germany. His name was Ikshwaku. I don't know if anybody still around here. Ikshwaku. It was very, very, a lot of adventure. Actually, Krishna consciousness, especially preaching, is a lot of adventure. Prabhupada was sometimes with devotees surrounding him. All of a sudden, Prabhupada said, "You go to Japan. You go to Kenya." Just like we had an association in Köln now of Trivika Maharaj. He was actually one of the first devotees of Srila Prabhupada, Trivika Maharaj. He also came to Germany. He came to Hamburg. Prabhupada sent him, to help us get moving. Anyway, so he always went out with us, and Harinam. There was no, we didn't have any books yet, so we just going out chanting and distributing. So Gottheit. We had a little magazine in Germany. This is Back to Godhead. And he had come from the military. He was a very, very strict devotee. And also when there was any problematic case on the street, he appeared and And he had actually published a book about his relationship with Srila Prabhupada. He had so much relationship with Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada also sent him. He was alone in Japan. Then he, as far as I remember, he also went to South Korea. Chanting alone. He was completely alone. And he was asking Srila Prabhupada for help. And Prabhupada said, "Okay, let it be like this first." Or Shivananda also, he came. He was the first devotee who came to Germany. He came from America. He had heard that Srila Prabhupada wanted devotees to travel and preach and spread the movement all over the world. So he told Srila Prabhupada that he had already come to Germany once before as a tourist, to see Europe. And then Prabhupada said, "Wow, very nice, you have this experience already." So then Shivananda came all alone. He came to, first he tried to get to London. Because at that time London was like the Mecca of the hippies. And so he tried to get in there, and they had already noticed that so many people young people were coming there, and this and that. And so they stopped him, and they opened his bag, and they found juggernauts in there. So they thought, "But this is too." So then he went to Holland. He went to Holland first. He had a nice young boy, Finnish boy. He became attracted by his mission. And then he left Holland and he went to Berlin. Berlin! Chai! He came to Berlin and alone. I was his boy. Anyway, so I heard that he was living. He had no place to stay, and that's not. So he kind of moved around the ruins from the Second World War, something like that. Anyway, so then kind of he got very, didn't like it very much, so he went to Hamburg. And when he got to Hamburg, when he told Prabhupada he went to Hamburg, Prabhupada said, no more traveling, now you stay, you do something. And then Prabhupada sent him devotees. He sent him Krishna-Das. Krishna-Das was 18 years old. And also Prabhupada sent, what's the other name? Madani Bharta. Prabhupada had met him in Canada. He was a German. And he was married to his wife. Had contact before with this group of Sadananda Swami in Sweden. He was Swedish. I don't know if Sadananda Swami is. Anyway, the German disciple of Srila Bhakti-Siddhanta Saraswati. Anyway, so Prabhupada sent them. He was supposed to. Prabhupada saw that he spoke very nicely English and everything, so he sent him back to Germany to translate his books. And then Prabhupada also sent somebody else, Jai Govinda. Prabhupada has sent him to I mentioned him yesterday, I think. Prabhupada sent him to India. And he also came back. Anyway, so Shivananda started everything by himself in the beginning. And it's due to these pioneers in the beginning that we are now in conditions of seeing Krishna consciousness as something normal, as something. And actually molded our life around these, without these teachings. Anyway, so Hare Krishna. I don't know how I got there now. Any questions? Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for the speech, the lecture. You spoke about the importance of surrender, and I wanted to ask, how can you cultivate this desire to surrender, but also be careful not to be exploited by things around you and people around you?
Yes, mentioned the first principle amongst the 5 most important amongst the 64 principles, sadhu sangha. Associate with devotees. Especially those devotees who are inspired, who are successful in their efforts, to learn from them. It's like everywhere. If you want to become an expert in something, you associate with persons who are experts, or who are dedicated to it. And if you follow the 4 regulative principles, starting with no meat, this is considered very important, the most important, I think. And chanting as much as you can on your beats. Then everything becomes more fluid, more easy. What do you think? Because when you associate with devotees who are actually serving Krishna, serving the spiritual master, they should be the quality and inspiration.
The source of inspiration.
Yeah, source of inspiration. Like associate with him. He's a very successful devotee. Oh, you know him? Sorry, I don't know so many devotees here. I haven't been here for so many years. Was that okay? You gonna do that? Don't just ask questions. As I can tell the Bhagavad Gita, when you want to know the truth, yeah, you try to the spiritual master, asking questions submissively, and serve. Serve. What are you going to do now? Yeah. Now you heard the class, you participate in the program like that. Now if he comes and asks you to do something, what are you going to do? Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.
His Holiness Bhakti-Bhushana Maharaj ki
Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.